Okay, we are recording. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
I'm good. I'm good. Your background, I like everything that is going on back there. Like that's like a whole vibe.
I'm out here in space, you know.
I'm pretty sure everybody here knows who my king is. When I got into SEO newly, like I was searching for black people that I could follow because I just needed to see that visibility. And Mike was among the first people that I saw that was doing like incredible things in the SEO space. So once I started these sessions, I was like, there's no way we have to have Mike in here because Mike is not just one of the best SEOs. He also does something incredible again, which is he has another entire career outside of SEO. Mike is a DJ. No, Mike is a music producer or musician. Which one is it? Sorry, I don't know.
I'm a rapper.
Rapper, yes, Mike is a rapper. So you see, those are like two different things. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of having the SEO career, but not making it your entire life. So Mike is going to share his story. But first of all, I think this is his first time meeting a lot of you. So if you guys can like go around starting with Goodness, just introduce yourself so that Mike can like get to know the class better. So Goodness.
Hi, Mike. I'm Goodness. So nice to meet you. I saw your profile on Twitter and lots of things you were doing there, and it's so great. So happy to hear your stories.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Deborah.
Hi, Mike. I'm Deborah. I'm based in Nigeria. I'm a content writer, and currently, I can say that I'm enjoying tech SEO. Initially, it was overwhelming, but right now, everything is getting more easier. And getting to know you, I know it will be another dimension of the story to get, to understand SEO in a new dimension. So I'm glad to meet you today.
Matilda.
Hi, Mike. Good afternoon. I'm Matilda. It's so nice to finally meet you. I've read a lot about you. I follow you guys on YouTube. I've watched the videos, and it's nice to finally have a conversation with you real life. So,
Sadiq.
Hi, Mike. My name is Sadiq. I'm a content writer here in Nigeria, and just transitioning into tech SEO, and it's been exciting all through. Meeting you today and like hearing your story, is something I've been like waiting for. So let's get it started. Let's get the vibe on.
Ebere.
Hi, Mike. Good day. My name is Ebere. I'm based in Nigeria. I'm a copywriter, transitioning to tech SEO. I can say I'm a tech SEO now. So nice to meet you. I like your song, Mama, We Made It, something like that. I really enjoyed the lyrics.
Thank you. Are you holding a baby?
I think she's holding a baby. Yeah, she is. She is.
Wow.
I'm a mom of two.
Prachi.
Hi, Mike. I'm Prachi. I'm based in Oman. I've been doing the content side of SEO a little bit for a year now, and I'm just transitioning into tech SEO. And I'm super excited to hear about how you started the agency and everything that you've done.
Alison.
Hello, Mike. Thank you for coming. Kingsley, Alison Kingsley, based in Nigeria, born and bred in Nigeria. It's nice to have you with us. I've been following you on Twitter. This is an opportunity to hear one side of the story. We are really happy. We are really happy to have you with us. Share your own part of the story too. Just like Deborah said, your own dimension of the story, because we have had so many coming here to tell us their own side of how they transitioned from. But I can see you're moving into you said you're a rapper, and I'm really impressed. I heard your song, and we are really happy to have you. Thank you for coming.
Munene.
Hi, Mike. My name is Monene. I'm based in Kenya. Very excited to meet you and to hear your story. You have to drop some bars for us before you leave. I hope that happens. All right, looking forward to hearing your story.
Abiola.
Okay, this is Abiola from Lagos, Nigeria. So we need to hear your story. As you said, we've had a lot of stories, but I think your own is unique. Actually, I really want to know how you transitioned to an SEO and how you started your consultant and your digital agency. And because this is the industry that's dominated by the white people, and how you're able to stand out and become one of the best digital agency, I really want to know the experience. I really honor to hear from you today. Thank you very much.
Catherine.
Okay, hi Mike. I'm Catherine. I'm a B2B writer based in Nigeria. And the amazing thing in all this is that your agency, iPurank, has actually been one of the agencies, or rather was one of the agencies when I started out, I really wanted to work with. So it's amazing that we have you here today. And I'm really interested in hearing how you got into how you got into SEO and how you built up your agency.
Yeah, so Mike, you can see that everybody's like buzzing with excitement to have you here. Like, this has been the one I've been really excited for. So it's good to see. I just wanted to see that I'm not the only one who was excited for you to be here today. So I'm gonna just mute my mic and then just let you tell your story. Like, usually you tell us your background before even SEO, what you were doing, and then how you found your way to SEO, and then how you started rapping, how you combine everything together to have like that perfect balance. So that's kind of like where we start from, and then we dive in with so many questions I'm sure everybody has after.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks everybody for being here. You know, you could be anywhere in the world doing anything. You're here with me, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, my story, I guess I got to start from like the top, right? Like, so I was just like a really curious kid who was really into computers, you know, from a young age. So I taught myself how to code around 12. I thought what I wanted to do with my life. First, I thought I was going to be a cartoonist. Then I thought I wanted to be a video game programmer. And then, you know, I'm originally from Philadelphia. My parents moved me to Connecticut. It's kind of like I was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And, you know, I just wanted to do things to stay connected to Philly. So I started rhyming, I started breakdancing, I started DJing, all this. So then when it was time to go to college, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go to Howard and I'm going to study computer science. And then, you know, I'm going to be a programmer of some sort. So I did that. And then, you know, I started doing these internships and I really didn't like working with, you know, engineers. Like they were always stressed out and boring people. And I was just like, this isn't really for me. Like I still like to code. I just don't want to do it with these people. And, you know, that was kind of my experience, like being out in Silicon Valley and all that. And so when I got back to school, I was like, yo, I just want to rap instead. And so I dropped out of school and I rapped. I did that professionally for 8 years. So, you know, I was playing shows all over the States. I was releasing records. I was signed to the indie subsidiary of Sony. I played all over Europe. I played in Australia. Later on, I actually did a couple shows in Uganda and South Africa too. But that was like, you know, like one trip. It's like the only time I've been to the continent. And so, you know, what happened was I literally got in an accident. Like I used to ride bikes a lot. I mean, not even like cool, like not like a motorcycle, like mountain bike. So I got in an accident and I didn't have health insurance because, you know, we didn't really have that for rappers at the time. And so I needed to get a job to pay my medical bills. And the first place to hire me was an SEO agency. And they were like, yeah, you know how to build websites. So I'm sure you can figure this out. And I was like, all right, cool. And my goal for that job was just to keep it for like 3 months because I was about to go do my first European tour. This is like 2006. And, you know, the 3 months passed and I was about to go on tour and I gave my notice to my boss. And he was like, oh, no, we got to keep you. You can work from home. Again, this is 2006. This is like my first kind of real job. I didn't know that was a thing. And so they're like, yeah, just take your laptop on the road. My laptop was like huge. Like it probably needed like a hand truck or something at this point. And, you know, I just had it in my backpack with all my CDs and my vinyl and T-shirts that I was selling. And, you know, on the train, because back then, like when I did SEO, we weren't like doing audits and then sending documents and, you know, all of that. It was just clients gave us their websites. Like you had direct FTP access and you did the adjustments and then you re-uploaded that to the site. So that's what I would do. I would get to a city, I would download like 2 or 3 sites that I was going to work on, and then I'd be on the train for like 6 hours between cities and everything, just doing SEO. And then when we get to the next hotel, I upload things, send out the email, and that was that. And I was like, yo, this is a game changer. Because, you know, as a rapper, I wasn't making real money, but I was able to supplement it, you know, by doing SEO at the same time. And so I kept doing this for about a year or so. And, you know, I would come back for a couple months and then go back on the road, same thing. But eventually the person that owned the agency just like really pissed me off one day, and I just quit. I just went back on tour. And, but, you know, like just having that stability of being able to make decent money from doing SEO, I was like, okay, I got to kind of do both of these, you know what I mean? And so that cycle kept happening. Like I would get a job, so my boss would piss me off, then I'll quit, go back on tour. And then at a certain point, I got a job at a big multinational agency called Razorfish. And I was like, yo, if I stick with this, I could probably make some real money. You know what I mean? And at the same time, one of my really good friends who I was doing all the touring with, we're on the train in like Sweden one day, and he's like, yo, Mike, I know you're doing that SEO thing. Did you know my cousin owns an SEO software company? Mind you, this is like 2011. There was only like 2 SEO software companies at this point. And I'm like, yo, who's your cousin? And he's like, his name is Rand Fishkin. I was like, what? You know what I mean? So it's just like this crazy serendipity in my life where I just ended up connected to like one of the biggest names in the space through what I was already doing in rap. So, you know, eventually I reached out to Rand via email, and Rand being Rand, he was just like super cool, responded back. And I was just kind of asking him for some advice on like, okay, well, how should I start to contribute here? And it's funny, I still have this email. He was like, yeah, you probably shouldn't start blogging because that's way too saturated. You should probably do something else. And I was like, yeah, all right. So I started blogging, and I started blogging on Moz specifically. And, you know, it created a lot of activity around me, right? Like there's a lot of people who were really interested in what I had to say because I had a unique, new, fresh perspective. And at the same time, I was working in Philly at Razorfish, and I was just a contractor. And it was weird because, you know, technically on paper, I wasn't quote unquote qualified, right? Like, because I didn't have a college degree. I didn't work anywhere for a long period of time. And so when I interviewed there, I was interviewing for this SEO analyst role. And they were like, yeah, because I had no experience writing about SEO. I only had experience building websites and doing SEO. And so they were like, yeah, you're not really qualified for this job. You know, we'll give you an associate SEO analyst position as a contract. So I only worked like 24 hours a week. And at first, or no, I was only scoped for 24 hours a week. And at first I was working extra just to like show them like, yo, I can do this. I'm really smart. I know all the things, blah, blah, blah. And because I was trying to get like the full-time permanent job. And really, ultimately, they didn't really respect what I brought to the table. But the reality was like, I knew more about what we did than every single person on the team. And, you know, people on the team would come to me asking me questions that were like technically above my pay grade and my title. And like, you know, I was just doing a lot of the work. And I was also building tools because I was like, a lot of things we're doing here are just wildly inefficient. Like, I was getting through work so fast in like my first week. They were like, yo, we've got this big export of 3 million links from Majestic. Can you go through all the links? And at this time, there's no tools for this. So like I built a tool to do it. And they kind of expected me to have a bunch of busy work to like be working on that for 2 months or whatever. I got it done in 2 days because I built this tool. And so, you know, again, like I was just trying to like show that I should be allowed to be here. Like they should offer me this job. And long story short is they never really understood my value. And so what I did is I went to another agency because Razorfish is in the Publicis network. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go to another Publicis agency, get a job offer, bring it back to Razorfish and be like, yo, like one of your sister agencies wants to hire me. Like, what are y'all going to do here? Right. And so I did that, and I got the job in New York for an agency called Publicis Modem. And I brought it back to Philly, and I was like, yo, what's up? What y'all trying to do? And they were like, yeah, we still can't hire you. Because they didn't have the headcount at that point. So I was like, cool, I'm going to move to New York. And, you know, it's a much bigger title than what they were going to offer me at Razorfish and so on. And got that job. And, you know, it was very like Mad Men, you know what I mean? Like modern Mad Men era, because it's like I'm working at a big creative agency, being the only person that does SEO, which gave me a lot of freedom, but also like meant that no one gave a shit about what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like they would hit me up the day before campaign is going live and be like, yo, Mike, can you press the SEO button? And I'm like, yo, that's not how any of this works. Like you can't come to me the day before. And around that same time, I started blogging for Moz, and I had like 2 or 3 really popular blog posts. And MozCon was coming up. And so I went to my boss. I was like, yo, you know, I'm trying to go to this conference. Can you all send me? And it was like a whole bunch of rigmarole where they just were like, weren't responding to me. And I was like, cool. And it was like a week or so beforehand. And they were like, yeah, we can't send you. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to just take vacation days. I'm going to pay for the ticket and I'm going to fly myself out there and just, you know, because I knew I needed to meet these people and get involved. And so I went to MozCon, fantastic experience. You know, I'm meeting all these people that I was talking to online, like in the comments of the posts, and, you know, really just getting to be a part of the community. And this is actually the second time that I met Rand. I met Rand at a Moz meetup they had earlier in the year. And, you know, we're just like instantly cool. I was super cool with Geraldine immediately, which is Rand's wife, for anyone that doesn't know. And then I went to MozCon, and, you know, when I left MozCon, Rand was like, yo, do you want to get more involved, right? Because they had the Moz Associates program where it was all about giving them feedback on the software, writing for the blog, answering Q&A. They're like, yeah, you know, you do this for us and we pay you. And I'm like, cool, like extra income. Like I was going to do this stuff anyway. And, you know, at the same time, shortly thereafter, Moz wanted to hire me. And so, you know, they flew me out to do one of their local meetups. We did the whole interview thing. They offered me the job. And, you know, I ultimately didn't feel like it was the right move for me to move to Seattle. Like I had just gotten to New York. It didn't really make sense. But at the same time, I knew I needed to move on for where I was at because, you know, I was just really underutilized. No one cared about what I was doing. And at the same time, I'm becoming this big name in the SEO community. So it's like my life in the SEO community was just so much better than it was at work. And so at the same time, I became very in demand because, you know, a lot of people were hearing about me and so on. And I started, I got to back up. So when I was at MozCon, kind of similar to what Shima was saying, you know, I'm watching all the speakers and everything, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, this would be cool to be able to do this, but like, it's only white guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they let us do this, right? And then Will Reynolds spoke, and I was just so inspired. I was like, oh, okay, they do let Black people do this, and we get to be better than them at this. This is amazing. You know what I mean? And immediately, like while I was watching him speak, I pitched for SMX East, and they gave me the speaking slot, and it kind of just snowballed from there. So Tom Critchlow, who used to be at Distilled, he saw a video of me speaking at SMX East. He was like, yeah, do you want to speak at Search Love New York? And then again, just kept snowballing from there. Like people just kept inviting me. And so because I had become, you know, this sought after speaker so quickly, I just got a lot of opportunities, a lot of people reaching out to me to come work for them. And ironically, Razorfish hit me up and they were like, yo, do you want to come and join us? And I'm like, let's see what else is out there. And so ultimately, it was kind of like a fake bidding war for all the agencies in New York for me to figure out where I would go next. You know, I didn't really love any of the places that were based in New York because they were all big agencies that didn't really care too much about SEO. So ultimately, I went to another agency that was based in Arizona, but also had an office in New York, and I led marketing for them. And it was wild because as soon as I joined, like a month later, they got de-indexed in Google for selling links because someone had outed them. And so that was a wild ride. Lasted almost 2 years. And then at that point, I was like, maybe I should start my own agency. But, you know, it just felt so daunting. Like, because after working at all these agencies that I worked at, I was like, I don't feel like the people that run these things are, you know, smarter than me. Like, I don't feel like they have something that I don't have. And in fact, they're coming to me for the thing that they don't have, right? Because like, in the case of this agency I was just talking about, they needed someone to kind of legitimize them because they were just like a link buying service. And they wanted to be, you know, they wanted to level up, and they came to me for that. So at that point, I wanted to start my own agency, but I just felt like I was going to run out of money too fast. Like, what if it doesn't work out? So I went and worked at another agency, and that only lasted for like 4 months because at that point I was like, I just can't work for these people. You know what I mean? Like, especially because they're trying to capitalize on my name, and then their decisions are things that I have to live with publicly. And so, you know, I just got to a point where I was like, look, this doesn't really make sense. And I had enough money in the bank where if I didn't sell a single thing for 6 months, I could still pay my rent. So I started my agency, and that was just about 8 years ago now. And I was just like, I want to do everything right, like the way I feel is right. Like, I felt like a lot of the agencies I worked at didn't really care about the people that worked there. And, you know, one of the things I told y'all about is like, I got into SEO because I didn't have healthcare. And so for my agency, we've always paid 100% of health care, vision, dental for people, because I always felt like that's something you shouldn't have to worry about. And, you know, the work that we do, a lot of it is technical, but we do far more content than we do anything else. And we've had a lot of success, like working with some of the biggest companies in the world, and, you know, just like trying to make it happen. So yeah, that's my story.
I think we can all agree that this is the most interesting SEO story we've heard so far in the series. By far, the most interesting, the most engaged I've been. I was like, ooh. So good. I'm going to let anyone who has a question for Mike put it in the comment section so that by the time I go through my questions, then we can get on that. So my first question for you, Mike, when you were learning SEO, because I call that period the dark ages of SEO, because it was so rudimentary, so archaic. How did you even grow? Because there weren't really a lot of. I think Moz was like the number one, and probably the only place where you could find materials back then. Because when I was still learning, it was Moz. So how were you even able to elevate yourself to grow? Because you're doing stuff in SEO that not a lot of people are doing.
Yeah. So the first 4 or 5 years of my SEO career, I had no idea there was an SEO community. Like, the people that taught me, frankly, didn't really know what they were doing. But like, that was also back when keyword density was a thing. And like the extent of link building was you would type in your keyword in Google and then add URL to it. And then you would look for places to like drop links. Like, that was the extent of link building when I started. And so some of the basics were things that, you know, everyone knew, like, hey, use your H1 tags, make sure your titles aren't too long, and, beyond that, it was just like, how do we shove keywords into every place possible, right? So yeah, it was very rudimentary. And for a long time, I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing, right? So it really took a lot of trial and error, because the second SEO job that I had, they brought me in and they were like, you know more about this than anyone else here. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Because they were like, yeah, we're just in this one space. Like, it was a basement waterproofing company. And I had worked in a variety of different verticals. So I didn't understand that, like, yes, I did understand it more than people. And it wasn't until I read The Art of SEO where I was like, oh, all the things I know, like, this is kind of codified what I knew. It just kind of like laid it out in a structured way. And when I realized like everything in that book was stuff that was like in my head, I was like, oh, okay. So where are the lines here? Like, what can we test out to see what works? And one of the things that I had done when I worked at that basement waterproofing company was I basically invented content spinning without knowing it was a thing. Like, I basically arrived at the same conclusion that someone in the community had without being a part of the community. And I was actually inspired by a rapper. There's a guy named Cannabis. He had this song, it was called Poet Laureate Infinity. And the only way you could listen to the song was like through this web interface. And so what he had done is he had recorded 4 versions of the same verse, but every line in every version rhymed with the lines in the other version. So you could turn them on and off and effectively make a new verse every time you listen to it. And I was like, oh, I can apply that to generating content. And so I basically invented content spinners before I knew they were a thing. And so once I got into the SEO community, I already had like this tinkering skill set because of my engineering skills. And so every time I would come up against a problem, I would solve it that way. And it just yielded a lot of new things once I did get into the community and saw what other people were doing. I was like, oh, okay, they're doing that. Well, this could actually be done this way if we improve it like that. And so I was just always very creative minded when I came into this, and I didn't take anything at face value. Like, anything people were saying were best practices, I was like, well, how do you know? Like, you're not Google, you don't know any better than I do. And I would always just try something else until, I would find something that worked. And when I started sharing the things that I was just doing, on my own, people were like, holy shit, like, what is this? You know what I mean? So like, me coming into this space and just having the experiences that I did just allowed me to really contribute in a valuable way. Very similar to like when Hamlet Batista, rest in peace, started putting more content out, and he was just like dropping this thing and this thing like back to back, and you were just like, yo, this guy's a genius. He's just got so many great ideas. And like that's what I was doing, not at that level, because he's smarter than me. But that's what I was doing when I was coming into the space, and that really helped evolve what we're doing. And I'm not saying I'm the only one that was doing it. Like, there's a lot of people contributing, but a lot of the ideas I was bringing in at the time were game changers, definitely.
That's interesting. My next question. So, how do you find the balance between what must be a very, very busy SEO career, because you run an agency, you manage people, and your rap career, because both of them seem to be existing so perfectly together? So how do you find that balance?
I don't. There's no balance in my life at all. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. For me, it's all about prioritization, and it really comes down to like, what's the most important thing to be working on. Ideally, with music, it would be something that I could continue to work on daily, because like you said, it's its own career, and it requires the same level of marketing that, the stuff we do for our clients. So yeah, I don't have a balance at all. I think it's really just like, what's the most important thing to be doing at any given time, and that's what I do.
I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the honesty. So I'm going to take Matilda's question. She says, what starting project or jobs would you recommend to tech SEO beginners to undertake to build and boost their portfolio, as well as stand out in an interview process? Interesting question.
Yeah, build something. And it doesn't have to be, build something and make it rank. It doesn't have, like, I don't need you to build a 100,000 page e-commerce site, but I do have a preference for candidates that have like built a blog and made it rank for 2-3 keywords, or, you know, done like a drop shipping thing. And even if it isn't like, hey, let me, you know, do something very specific to SEO, I want to see someone with the capability to figure things out. And whether that's like, if you did a drop shipping thing and you figured out how Facebook ads work, or you started a blog, or you started an e-commerce site, or you know, just anything, just do a thing and show me how you did it. Like, because it's the people that can actually do things that are far more effective than people that just talk about things. And when people interview with us, you know, I know this is a controversial thing, but when people interview with us, we have them do a small project, because it's not about like, how good are you at talking about, you know, what you say you can do. It's like, what can you actually do? And, you know, to that end, it's not like a project where we're just going to take your work and sell it to a client. It's not a site we're working on or thinking about working on. It's also not an extensive project. It's just like, all right, well, here's a scenario. Show us how you would tackle this scenario so we can see what it is that you can actually do. And so when we have people that come across the table that are like, hey, I built a tool, or I built a website, or I started a blog, like all of that stands out far more to me than someone that's like, oh yeah, I worked at this big agency on this big brand, which means you didn't actually probably do much of anything, because those big brands don't allow you to do much. So yeah, for me, it's always the people that have actually done something that stand out.
I think that's an amazing answer, because innovation is so hard to find in the SEO community. So hard to find. Everybody is basically doing rinse and repeat, repeated strategy, just basically taking what everybody else has done and then hoping that they can pass, will I call it, that first test, which is basically word of mouth and just basically talking. And then, because I've seen this happen a lot, someone reached out to me one time on Twitter. She hired someone from Nigeria. I don't know why she thought I'm like the spokesperson for all Nigerian SEOs. And then she's like, she hired this person, great interview, great process, and then the person comes on the job and the person is just absolute shite.
I mean, that's happened many times.
Yes. So I can definitely understand giving them a kind of like a test scenario. But again, like what Mike said, as you guys are learning right now, remember you have the Wix SEO site, the Wix website. I think I've said it before that you need to be using that Wix website to be doing something. Try to rank for a keyword, build out content, share your expertise. I like what Catherine is doing. Catherine just jumped on a thread with SEMrush. That is massive. That is huge. To still be in training and be able to get on that is amazing. So that's kind of stuff that I think everybody should be trying to do. Innovation, like Mike said, this is the big takeaway for me today. Build something. Okay, that's going to get you far ahead than everybody else. Allison's question, Mike, I've learned a lot from your story. Would you say your programming experience gave you an edge in SEO?
Absolutely.
Or your coding experience, rather?
Absolutely. So the thing is, there's a lot of principles that you learn in computer science that just make it clear like what is possible and what isn't, or what is realistic based on the situation. So there's a lot of times I'll read a blog post on SEO and I'm just like, yeah, that's not true. You know what I mean? Like it's just clearly, obviously not true based on the situation for like how information retrieval works as a science. And it also helps me understand like what may be happening. And then with respect to like what sort of tooling you can create. So I think that there is a lot of, there was a lot of opportunity for me in the beginning of my career to say like, all right, what we're doing right here is very inefficient. There's a way to fix this. Like anything that requires me to copy and paste a lot could be automated. And so I automated it and it just made me faster at what I did. and allowed me to spend more time like being strategic rather than doing the busy work, even though the jobs I started with were meant to be busy work jobs. So it absolutely allowed me a big advantage. And then also it allowed me to come up with things that I could share to the community that helped me build my thought leadership career. So I can't say enough about the value from me knowing how to code and what it gave me for my career.
All right, we have another question from Prachi. Hi, Mike. I want to know what the whole process of finding a client based on your agency's niche, onboarding them and executing their project looks like. How does the agency work with the client side? Any challenges you may have faced along the way as a new entrepreneur? So there's a lot of questions in here. So the first thing is the process of okay, first of all, what is your agency's niche, Mike? That's the first question. What is your agency's
We don't have one.
niche?
We don't have
Okay.
one. Everyone tells you to niche down. I think that's boring as hell. Like, I'm not trying to just do e-commerce or just do fashion or whatever. Like, I'll get so bored so fast. But you know, the majority of our clients are inbound. So just as a function of our marketing efforts, my thought leadership, I would say 90%. Like we've tried in the past having outbound salespeople, and they just weren't successful for a number of reasons. So it's largely people just like hitting us up, reading our content, reaching out, seeing me speak, things like that. Okay. Now, as far as how we onboard them, so all right. First step is, you know, the discovery call, make sure there's a directional fit between us. Then I put together a proposal wherein I review everything that they have going on versus their goals. And then because we're a productized service, we're not just gonna be like, oh, hey, yeah, we'll do SEO for, you know, X number of dollars an hour, and we'll figure it out as we go. We figure out the deliverables at the onset, and then that determines what the scope of the engagement is and how long it's going to be. And then for the onboarding, we will send them an intake questionnaire. I'll have a discussion with the team. We do what we call a strategic brief, where I lay out everything that was discussed in the sales process, give them all the details, then they prepare the intake questionnaire, collect a whole bunch of information from the client, figure out what other questions we might have for them based on all that stuff. Then we do the onboarding call, like the kickoff, and we lay out what the structure of the engagement is going to be, what the cadence is for meetings and things like that. And then it's all just like executing from there. Okay. So how do we work with the client side? So it depends on the scope. So we've done things where it's been as close as like us being physically there with the client. So like we had a client, one of the big e-commerce sites, that they lost their entire SEO team. So me and a couple people from our team were on site with them, you know, like twice a week or whatever. Whereas other clients can be like more hands off. Like they just want to meet once a week and then we do everything for them. Or it could be they have the internal team that's executing, and we prepare deliverables, review them with them. For technical things, we do user stories so that a product manager doesn't have to like translate what we want. And then we're just like engaging them on a regular basis to make sure they're getting things done. And challenges faced as a new entrepreneur. How much time do you have? Like we can talk about that for 5 hours. But one of the biggest challenges for me was that I'm not a process-oriented person. You know, if you ask me to do 3 different audits, I'll probably do them 3 different ways, because I more look at the site and figure out like, where's the site telling me to go? Not just like looking at a checklist to replicate the same thing over and over. And, you know, like Shima was saying, like most people don't work that way. They're just kind of painting by numbers. They're like, okay, checklist says do this, do this, do this. Sure, but you miss a lot of things doing your work that way. And I really had to wrap my head around, like, this is what other people need if they're not, like, you know, most people are not like me. That's just the reality. And I've had to learn that the hard way. Like, I never really thought, like I was special. I thought that everyone was capable of the things that I'm capable of. But the reality of it is that most people just don't apply themselves in that way. and they just need like a list of things to do, and that's that. So that was the biggest thing that I had to overcome in order for us to scale and be more successful.
Mike, this has been incredible. Like, I'm so glad I'm recording this because this is so good. So incredible. Thank you so much for coming through. Thank you so, so much. Does anybody else have any question for Mike? Because we're about to round up. All right, no questions. Mike, thank you so much for coming along. I think we're at the end of our session today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. If you ever have any questions or you need some help, just feel free to hit me up. I'm iPoolRank on Twitter, obviously. Mike at iPoolRank.com. It's my email. So I'm a resource.
I think if you want to reach out to Mike, reach out to him on email. He's better reachable on email than social media from experience. All right, Mike. Enjoy. Everyone else, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye.